Hi, I'm Kiwi,
And I'm Jared.
and we are the two gentlemen coming to you with a spring in our steps. Jared, how are you?
Good. Had a minor emergency yesterday. Um, my eldest decided to step on a not on purpose, but she was getting on the trampoline and stepped on a bee, and
Oh,
the bee put the put the stinger in. So she's all good. She's all good, but just made me think. Like those as a species, like the bee. Imagine your only mechanism, like defense mechanism, is the thing that kills you. Like,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
imagine like if someone attacked us and we punched them and then we die because we
yeah,
punched them. Like, isn't that like some kind of cruel bloody joke or something?
yeah,
Like this poor thing, like it was trying to defend itself and part of it's it survived the attack, but but it goes off and dies because it's
yeah.
stung. Yeah, it's pretty sick joke. But
It
anyway,
is, it
we're all
is.
good. Poor B probably isn't, but yeah, we survived. Bit of an ice pack and a few tears, but we're all good. That was just me.
How's her foot today?
Yeah, good. She's fine. It's like nothing happened. Yeah, she was limping around like it got cut off the other later last night, but yeah, she forgot about it pretty quick.
Oh, good, good.
Yeah, we had to watch. I actually because she's never been stung by a bee, so you got people who got allergies to it, so we sort of
Yeah.
had to keep an eye on that as much as we could. What about yourself, buddy? How's things going?
Yeah, good. We've been really healthy, and I don't think I've ever been healthier, actually. I haven't had a cold in ages. I think not shaking hands with people really helps,
Yeah, I
and
know it does.
practicing the hand hygiene that I have been. So, yeah, very, very good, very happy, very inspired, and yeah, always in a good mood.
Awesome. It's good to hear. It's good to hear. And yeah, I'll double down on that cleanliness of hands. I've never washed my hands so much in my life, I'll tell you. But I think I sanitized like 15 times yesterday morning because I
Yeah,
was
right.
out and about
Yeah,
every time I
right.
put out of the car. But yeah, no, all good.
Good. And I guess I can use that to segue into having a winning feeling. I
Mm,
feel like on top of things at the moment. I'm feeling good in my life, and I was
yeah.
just thinking about the thrill of the win, the thrill of coming off the field, having conquered something, maybe stepping out of the ring, having fought a really good round, even just having a good training session at the gym. Jared, what's that winning feeling like for you?
Oh, it's obviously I'm going to state the obvious here. It's a very positive one, isn't it? Like it's you're almost on. You feel like you're sort of invincible a little bit. Feels like you're a little bit lighter. Um, yeah, look, there's a lot of feelings, but it's just something that it's just a feel good thing, like and it's not a matter of like, oh, I beat that person or I beat that, I did this and I'm better than everybody. Feel sort of egotistical sort of feeling. It's more of a private thing where you just feel good for whether it be a couple of days or a day or a week or whatever. It just puts you on that cloud nine, I guess. And it just makes you look at things a little bit differently.
Yeah,
And I think it makes you look at everything a little bit more positive. So for me, that's in a nutshell. I mean, obviously, there's other little feelings that go along with it, but yeah, in a nutshell, that's pretty much what winning sort of does for me. You can tell with you now, like you look at the way that you started this podcast and the way that you explained how you're feeling good and healthy and everything. Like that's the feeling pretty much that you get. And I mean, is that for a particular reason, or is that something that you've just sort of at the moment you've decided to live a certain way, or how's this come about for you?
yeah. Look, you're asking me how it's like in my everyday life, I guess.
Yeah.
I was talking about, an acute moment where you might have come off the field or off the stage after killing it or something.
Yeah.
But I think it's a really good question that you've asked about, your everyday life. Like, how can you feel like this? And I think it is sustainable. It's just about trying to stay on top of things, the important things in life. And for me, it's my health. If I feel good, then the rest can follow.
Yeah, it's a chain reaction.
Yeah, something I started about 4 years ago was having cold showers. I read about it. It was a bit of a fad. I don't know if people still do it, but I started it. And the idea behind it is that you're doing something you really hate first thing in the morning, especially in winter. But what you're doing is you're having a victory. Straight away, you're winning something. I'd look up at the shower and I'd just, at times, then I'd close my eyes and just go, oh, just, I'm going to turn it on now. And then it just hits you and you're like, oh, man. But then you start sledging the shower. You're like, come on, is that all you've got? Come on. Is that as cold as you can get?
I would, I don't want to say I'd like to see that because that means I'd have to be in the shower with you. But yeah, it's an interesting thought that you're sledging a shower. But do you have it at the coldest? Do you work it down, or is it like straight up, like
it's just
hot off?
Just the cold. Just turn it on and
like
stay
cold turkey, literally.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the reasons why I did it, it's a similar reason for why I started music, was to prove that if I could do it, someone who's totally not built for this, then shows that anything is possible.
Yeah.
I'm with my Southeast Asian genes, I'm built for tropical weather, I think. I saw you out in your backyard earlier when we were recording back in winter, sitting there in a singlet. And I was like, oh, how can you do that? I'm in my lounge room in a robe.
Yeah.
But if I can handle the cold shower for 5 minutes, that means anything is possible. Yeah. So that really put me in a good mindset. Okay, I'm beating an enemy here every day.
Right. Yeah.
And then from there, I'm a winner for the rest of the day. And it just got my mind right.
Okay, so that's a good little win, like I call it little, I don't mean to trivialize it, but that's a good little start, a good little win to the day. I mean, throughout the day, you go through highs and lows. Everybody does.
Yeah.
But as a winner, what about if you win something, huge? What about if you get that job that pays an enormous amount of money and you've won that interview essentially, and you got that job, and you're on this sort of like, you're living this lifestyle because of the money that's coming in. What if you're a sports person that's won the finals, won the grand final, gone to the pinnacle, represented your country? You say it's sustainable in life, but how do these guys sustain that once the hype wears off? It'd be tough.
It really would be. And in so many ways, I mean, firstly, you've got to look at it physically. What happens to you after you win? The rush of endorphins that you would get, that feeling that, you've accomplished something. You described it as feeling invincible. And we've only achieved, with all respect to us normal people, ordinary things, ordinary victories, like me winning a cold shower. Yay, I won in a race of one, But you look at someone, for example, winning a Grand Slam or a grand final in front of 80,000 people, winning the Super Bowl in front of an audience of, 300 million. I don't know how many people watch it around the world. Winning all that money, winning Powerball, something like that. The actual physical sensation, you actually have no control of. That would come at you so fast and so hard. And without any sort of self-awareness, you can't deal with it. So in the moment, all you can do really is let it come and enjoy the moment. But it's afterwards that you have to get a bit of perspective. And that's the tough bit.
Well, I think as quick as that those feelings come into your life, they can be taken, or they remove themselves just as quick, like whether that be a month down the track, a year down the track, or whatever it might be. If something's come at you fast, it's going to leave fast. So there's definitely you have to have a plan if you have been to that pinnacle, which, like I said, we haven't. So it's only us talking about it. We've had our little wins and they felt great. But definitely winning a Grand Slam, winning a Grand Final, winning whatever is just a moment that, can you replicate that in your life again? And I think that's where some people get into trouble.
Yeah. I don't think you're supposed to replicate that. It's impossible, really. It's like trying to relive your child's birth again. Like that moment's done. It's dealing with the aftermath of it. And it's really difficult. Something an elite athlete did tell me. So my boss's boss's boss, she's a former Olympian and a two-time Olympian. And one of the things that she said that was difficult was being around different sorts of people. So she said that when she was I think she was at the AIS, I'm not sure exactly, but she was training with elite people.
Yeah.
And then one of her challenges was, she said, not being around type A people anymore. And I never thought of it like that. Being around us normal people was a different feeling for her. And she's not saying this in a snobby way at all.
No,
she just meant that, you're there with people with a particular mindset who basically get things done, and who are incredibly talented at what they did. They were also born gifted, really. I mean, these are elite athletes who are, 6 feet tall or whatever, and with amazing strength and coordination and all other sort of stuff. So even the change of environment would be huge, especially if you're from a team sport. Imagine retiring. Not only do you get told what to eat, what to do, what time to show up to training, what to wear, how to speak to the media.
Friends are.
Yeah, exactly. You've got all this inbuilt social infrastructure, whereas it's a bit like leaving school, really. You get completely lost. If there were no such thing as university or a career, what would you do with yourself, really? You're asking yourself, what's the meaning of life? And for someone who has already accomplished the meaning of life, they've climbed their Everest, well, what next? And that's the thing. Can you replicate that? You can't find another Everest. Actually, there was a fullback of the English team that won the 2003 World Cup, Josh Lucy. After that, he went and climbed Everest. So he quite literally found his next Everest, which was Everest.
Yeah, right. There you go. So, yeah, you're right. I mean, it is like school. When we're talking about team sports here, like it is like school. Some of these guys haven't left school.
No.
They go from the schoolyard to a life of, regimented things, and then at 32, they go, okay, you're retired now. That would be tough, especially if you have been at the top of your game, or you have been. Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're at that level, you're elite. But there's the elite of the elite too. The ones that did win grand finals, and the ones that did represent their country and their state, and were people were going crazy for them for a period of that time. And even people in Australia. I mean, Australian sporting teams don't even compete. Don't even come in the same. They shouldn't even be in the same breath when it comes to fanfare compared to American sporting teams, or the European, the English soccer, or something like that. Like that's just that is another level. But yeah, like the highs that these people would come across. I mean, is there anything that you can compare that to in coming out of that life, or finishing the season? Like how do you go from one extreme to the other?
Yeah, it's really hard, isn't it? And not only did they get that sort of high, they got it quite often. Like, for example, if you're winning, say, even 12 games a season, it's not a lot, for a home and away sort of record. But even that's 12 times a year that you're on a real high. Yeah. I still remember one game you and I played. I still remember the score. We lost 42-15, right? But I scored this try. We did a double wraparound. Now, for anyone who knows what a wraparound is, you can visualize this. For those that don't, I'm really, really sorry. But I passed the ball to Jared. I ran around Jared. Jared passed it to me. I then passed it to another forward, ran around him and got the ball off him, and then scored a try. Now, like I said, we lost 42-15. We were very young. They were like 18 playing against 21-year-olds. And I was on such a high after that game. I was like, oh, yeah, I can't wait for the next one, and
maybe we'll do a triple wraparound.
Exactly. But that was off the back of one try. Now, could you imagine your face being broadcast around the world after your greatest moment? Jared sent me footage of us in under 15s in a semi-final. We finished fourth that year. We played against fifth in the semi-final, and it was my first touch of the ball, and it was probably my greatest on-field moment.
Brilliant.
It was brilliant. It was caught on camera, but it's this grainy old footage. Now, could you imagine being one of these amazing players now and being the face of the game, essentially? What that would do for you and how it would make you think about yourself. All of a sudden, you're getting your self-worth from what other people are projecting onto you and what other people think of you. So there's a whole host of other problems that come along with it.
Well, it's like a drug, isn't it? It's like a drug.
Well, yeah, and that's why I think a lot of athletes and rock stars come off the field, come off the stage, and the first thing they have to do is maintain that high, and there are drugs that help them do that. So I'm not justifying drug use. I haven't even touched marijuana in my life. That's how straight I am. Not like I'm bragging about that or anything. I'm just trying to make it clear that I'm not advocating for drug use here. I'm just saying that I understand why these high level athletes and musicians and actors coming off, the stage after winning an Oscar or something, go off and perhaps take some drugs. Yeah,
it definitely has a connection. And all the things that we described, or I described, and you've described, that cloud nine and euphoria. You feel like you're invincible, you're positive, kind of, for a short period of time. Some of these drugs can replicate. So it's, but again, like I said, as quick as it comes, it goes. So, you see the people who do, dabble in this sort of stuff, they come down and they come down like a ton of bricks. And it, again, I think it could be a form of trying to sustain that high, but, I think in the end, you've got to realize that you can't live at that. You can't always win, You've got to learn how to be defeated or not exceed what your expectations are and live with it. That's the, and it's how you respond to that is the key.
Yeah. If you've got a pretty good baseline, you can do that. But I guess if everything else in your life is dependent on that win, if your self-esteem is derived purely from how talented you are, and then someone else comes along and beats you, it would have a massive effect on your feelings and your hormones, on everything.
Yeah. As age kicks in too, it just, you start to decline, and these young people come up through and can do what you used to do and things like that. And there's a whole lot of stuff they got to deal with.
I think for men as well, testosterone is a huge deal. I think there were some sorts of experiments with primates where if the alpha of a tribe were taken away, the beta of the tribe, that male's testosterone levels would automatically increase.
Right.
Yeah, because they got this feeling that they're the alpha now.
Yeah.
So when you become top dog or top monkey or top ape, your testosterone increases. So when you're losing, your testosterone may decrease, and that could lead to a whole host of other problems where you feel down on yourself.
Yeah. Well,
it's all chemical.
And it's crazy because you can see it, and I'll refer to what I know, and you see it when you're watching teams and you're like, they should be winning. Why aren't they winning? They just can't get over the hurdle. And it's because there's collectively, as a team, as a 17 or as a squad of 30 or whatever you want to call it, they've got their testosterone or their levels of their whatever aren't high enough. And then you see on the opposite end, you see these teams are like, how are they, it jumps, the West Tigers of 2005 or Penrith Panthers of 2003. Like, these guys played on obviously a high level of skill, but, they got to a point of the season where they just had this run, and, it was essentially like they just win those games that they needed to win by 2 points, or, that sometimes it was down to a play, and it was just, like you said, chemically, their body is producing something that gets them over the line. Yeah.
And those teams that you referred to, one of the common things they had a couple. There was one player that played in both of them, Paul Fadawira. But apart from that, they had youth. Youth is the greatest drug ever invented. Yeah. This is why there's all these stories about the fountain of youth, and all these aging rock stars are taking drugs so they can feel young again.
Yeah.
And there's nothing quite like it. They say youth is wasted on the young. I totally agree.
Yeah, I know, right? I wish it was Benjamin Button, I'll tell you.
Yeah, I know. I feel better than ever. I wish I had my 20-year-old testosterone. I wish I had that energy. I don't quite. I have a different kind of energy, and there's nothing wrong with 40, 41-year-old energy. But geez, there's something magical about being young.
I think with the life experience that we've had, and as you get older, you're going to get more. And then throwing in that young testosterone is probably a chemical recipe for disaster. Maybe.
Yeah, good point. But I think the thing with being young is that you haven't had that big loss yet. Usually, I mean, you may have come from something really, really difficult, but you've still got this chance to make your life.
Yeah. And it's all in front of you.
That's not to say that we don't have a chance to remake our lives. Now, like we talked about my dad being 76, totally. He's still got a whole career ahead of him if he wants to, and, do something completely different.
Yep.
But totally. That's really a matter of us changing our perception, I think, of life and time. I think that's the one thing I wish I had when I was young. I had a poor perspective of time. 5 years sounded like forever. Yeah. Whereas now, my eldest son's almost 13.
Yeah, it's crazy, and you're still holding him almost in your arms. You feel like,
Oh, totally. Yeah.
My eldest is turning 8 soon, and I'm like, there's no way we still fit into these clothes short. I'm trying to put baby clothes on. But it's crazy how time flies as you get older. It's so true.
Yeah. So, Jared, having said all that, is there a way that we can sustain a good baseline in our lives?
I think it's keeping or being realistic. And when I say that is setting yourself goals that will chip away at what you want to do. Getting those really high moments that we've talked about in this episode, they can come along, but you've got to know, that they will go back. You might have a birth of a child again, and or you might have you might have a kid, and have all those emotions come up. But like you said, you've got to then come down, and then you've got this little human to care for, and along the way you're going to get these little highs and lows and whatever. But responding to those, you don't have to try and keep that. You don't have to try and keep that high. That's what I'm trying to say. Is don't try and sustain it. Just look forward to the next one. I guess that chip away to get to that point again. Yeah. Life is a long journey. Like we said, it does go fast, but it also, when you're living it is a long journey. So it really is a matter of just enjoying the little wins and taking it as it comes.
Yep. Enjoy the victories when they're there. And
yep. You got any wise words for me, mate? Because I had quite a bit of trouble articulating that.
Look, for me, it's about being balanced. I don't think we're meant to walk around feeling like we've just won a grand final at every moment of our lives. You think about getting a massage, for example. If I walked around feeling like that all the time, I'd look a bit silly, with a smile on my face, or that, bliss. You're not meant to feel like that. You're meant to have a really good neutral, I suppose. And when you do have those highs, we recognize them as highs. Whereas I guess if you're doing it for a season, then that becomes your baseline. That's the problem. And for someone who is elite, so this probably isn't relevant to any of our listeners, because I don't think there's any professional athletes listening to this.
You never know.
But it would be about readjusting your perspective, I guess. Once you're off stage, once you're off the field, it's about a sustained way of coming down. Now, the biggest high I've ever had in my life, in terms of an acute moment like that, was coming off stage after the first time I'd ever done any stand-up comedy. Yeah. The reaction I got from the crowd was unbelievable. It was beyond my dreams. And I was on a real high, but I was able to come down because I came home to my family and, we had a big hug and debriefed about it. So I think that debriefing process is really important. For a lot of people, especially athletes, actually, no, it's not just athletes, but anyone, you get off, to celebrate a grand final, it's probably 24 hours straight celebrating with your mates, carrying on, cheering. Yeah. And then you get back to, the clubhouse or, your league's club or whatever it is, and you've got fans greeting you there, screaming your name. You've got the press all over you. You've got, your face on the cover of a newspaper. it's insane. It just keeps going and going and going. So it would be really hard. But I guess my advice to anybody, if they'd want my advice, would be to just to understand that life is made of basically, you've got your baseline, and then you've got your big set pieces, the big moments, just like a film. You can't have a film with car chase after, a high stakes scene after this and that. There's always some pacing to it. And that pacing is a good thing. So, when you have come back from the Olympics and you're no longer in the athlete's village and you're back into normal life, I guess it's just about understanding that this is what reality is and enjoying the highs when they're there and just trying to find a good baseline when you're back.
That's a good analogy with the movie thing. Like you can't watch a movie that you can't sustain. Like who can watch a movie with car chase after, thriller scene, like, like you'd be on the edge of your seat biting all your fingernails off. It's, it has to come down at some point and recalibrate and realign.
Yeah.
So,
and the important thing with a film or a story is that you've got a resolution, and the resolution has to be satisfying to the viewer. So I guess if you're coming back, if your story isn't resolved, it's really, really hard, isn't it? If you haven't won that gold medal, that's a really difficult thing. If you lost that grand final and you never got another shot at it, that would be so difficult. I can imagine. You're so close, and you lost it. You didn't throw that pass or,
Yeah. But it's, a matter of, let's not dwell on it. And, you've got a lot of life left to live. And, it's just a moment in time, even though it might have been celebrated more than others. It's just a moment in time. And when you go home to your family or go home to where you live, it literally, that moment's gone, and whether you succeeded or failed in that moment, it doesn't matter. It's a moment, it's gone, and it's, you got to look forward.
Yeah. I remember a really successful Aussie rules player who never won a premiership, but won one as a coach. He said that, it wasn't about winning a grand final. It was the fact that they were in the battle to win one that many times. And you know what? To me, that's winner talk right there. It's about giving it everything you've got. That's all. And ultimately, we've talked about this before, that you're running your own race. You're not competing with anyone else. And, if you were to compare yourself to all the other winners, or compare yourself to the best one, how would you feel then? There's only one top dog.
Yeah,
so, I think it really is just about being in the battle and having a go. And you're right. It is just a moment in time. And the resolution then, you said, you come home to wherever you live or to your family or whatever. To me, that's the resolution, that you've got people around you that you love. And if you don't have that, well, then your story's still going. You're building your life, aren't you? The real parts of your life.
Yep. Totally.
Yeah. Now, Roman soldiers used to come back from, actually it was the generals they'd come back from war and they'd get what's called a triumph, which is basically a ticker tape parade. I don't think they had ticker tape back then, but, the whole city would get out and cheer them and say, thanks for fighting for our city and, bringing back all these spoils that you killed a lot of people for. But that was the resolution of their story, that they'd get this recognition. And for a lot of people, we want people to know who we are. We want people to know who we truly are. And in the winning sense, it's about how powerful an animal you are. So we want people to recognize you're a champion, you're a winner, and we want them to, put that medal around our neck to confirm it, to say, yep, this is you, to give us that trophy and say, yep, you're the best. And without that recognition, we don't feel that self-worth. So I just love to tell everyone, you don't really need that to feel good about who you are. It's not what I think, some random guy or a random 3 million people, what we think. You are who you are and you know who you are.
Yep. I got nothing to say to that because I agree.
All right. Thank you so much, Jared. I hope you've got that winning feeling after this talk.
I do, mate. Thank you. Take it easy.